Finding your role in God's mission can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to. God is not hiding it from you or making you search for it. Perhaps you've just been looking for the wrong thing. What does it mean to find your calling, your role in His kingdom work? Jesus told His disciples, "As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." Our calling is to go. We have received His Spirit so that we might have power to go and make disciples. Some go to the furthest corners of the globe, some only cross the street in front of their house. Still, God's people always go. They go to work, school, grocery stores, kids' soccer games, and family reunions. And wherever they go, they take their witness of Jesus with them. True believers live going and carrying out His mission. Embrace your place. Get going. Share what you've been given. John the Baptist has always struck me as an underappreciated part of Jesus' story. I get it, John the Baptist does seem odd. He was the one wearing clothes made out of camel hides, eating locusts, and preaching out in the desert. But in his day, John amassed a pretty big following. People were so moved by John's preaching that they left their homes and stayed in the wilderness with him for days to learn and be baptized by him. John's ministry was so influential that some thought he was a return of Elijah or another great prophet from the Old Testament. Later, after John had affirmed Jesus' identity and ministry, some of John's followers were concerned about how much of John's crowd was leaving him to follow Jesus. His numbers were slipping. But John seems to have understood who he was and his unique role from the beginning. John explained, "I am a voice shouting in the wilderness, clear the way for the Lord's coming." John understood that his role was to point to Jesus. He was only a voice, an echo of an Old Testament refrain. The more people left him to follow Jesus, the better. John was willing to give up fame and notoriety, crowds and credibility if more people could only recognize Jesus. It's so easy to get caught up in what we're doing, what we're building. And why not? The world constantly encourages us to do it. From the time we're kids, we're coached to pursue the life we want, the jobs we love, and a lifestyle that fits our desires and needs. And we learn to pay careful attention to the measurements of friends and followers on social media. We know how many people are following us and when people stop following. It usually bothers us much more than it seemed to bother John. We feel like we have to build our own life. We have to make sure our work is meaningful. What John understood is that our real value is not in what we build, but in the calling and role God offers us. So often we think that divine calling has to be something impressive, something bigger than we could find on our own. That thinking can be dangerous. We think we're doing God's work as we're continuing to measure success by the world's standards. John the Baptist helps us recognize that the world's measurements don't work, not when it comes to serving Jesus. We are called to the humble and simple work of pointing people to Him. We too are a voice, preparing the way for the good news. The Lord has come. What matters is living so these words will one day be spoken over you. Well done, my good and faithful servant. What matters is your faithfulness. What matters is your humble submission to whatever role He has for you. And even when that role seems unclear, it's the disposition of our heart that matters most. God, whatever you want of me, I'm willing to do it. Big or small, public or private, noticed or unnoticed. Are you willing to embrace your role in His work?